Hello, everyone. This is Laverne Gordon of Love Life Now Foundation. And again, we are popping up with one of these Facebook Lives to talk about the issue of domestic violence and how it affects one in every four women, one in every three teens, one in every seven men, how across the board this issue is, who it affects, why it affects. How can you be part of the solution? All of that good stuff. And so I'm joined tonight by a first time guest, Erin Foster. And where are you coming to us, Erin? What state are you out of?
I am in Houston, Texas.
Houston. So different time zones. I'm in the North Shore where we're having a nor'easter at the moment. Lots of wind and all that good stuff happening, but you are in Houston and I want to thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight Erin is going to talk about what it looked like to restart #reset after coming out of an abusive situation and start over. Oftentimes when we get to the other side of these situations, we believe that what we've been through is what we've been through, and just need to survive. We don't necessarily think about what thriving can look like, and beyond what we've experienced, how we can get not over it because it will always be with us what we've experienced, but sort of get, not just get by, but really, like I said, thrive. So Erin, why don't you introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about your story and what got you to this point in wanting to share.
Okay. Again, I'm Erin. I have three wonderful boys that I'm raising. And kind of what got me to this point was I got married to somebody really very young that I did not know.
Mm-hmm.
Within 6 months, we were married, and the kids came quickly, and everything was great until he got a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
And once he started drinking, the abuse started. And um,
Now, was it when he was only when he was drinking that the attacks would happen, or
well,
were there things that led up to it and then that the drinking sort of pushed it to another level?
he wasn't a nice person sober, and drinking
Yeah.
pushed it to another level.
Yeah. So that's
So,
something that I like to point out is that drinking isn't the cause of this issue. It is
correct.
simply an inhibitor of it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I had my third child, very early on, I realized that things were very out of control, and that, you know, my kids were growing and seeing these things, and um, in danger and at risk.
Hmm.
And we were thrown out in the cold winter with
By him?
he threw us out. My
Hmm.
youngest was not even 2 weeks at the time. I had just had a cesarean. I had two small boys.
Hmm.
He threw us out on the street in the middle of the night in the winter.
Wow.
And at that point, I knew that I had to do better.
Hmm.
And so I made a plan. And that plan is kind of something that grew, because at first your plan may be small. You have to set reasonable goals for yourself, and so your plan may be just to get away safely.
Hmm.
And initially that is what I did, but not every journey is without a setback or two or three,
Hmm.
but we have to
So,
push through.
right, exactly. But I want to first of all thank you, Jesse, for your comment. Jesse out of Arizona is joining us, and I want to something that you said there is really highly important. Oftentimes, when victims seek to leave these relationships, we are often thinking about the big picture of what's next. And, what you said was that you have to set attainable goals, little things that you can accomplish day by day, maybe minute by minute to figure out a safe way out. Thank you, Renee, for your hearts to Erin. And so, you know, that's huge, right? Is setting small attainable goals. So tell us about what those goals look like for you.
Well, first, my first goal was to get out of his home, the home that I
Hmm.
shared with him.
Hmm.
And once I did that, I had some huge setbacks, very discouraging. And I lost my job, my car broke down, and I just didn't have any way to feed my little ones. And um, I found the Montgomery County Women's Center here in Texas. And
How did you find them? Was it by a search on the internet or?
a family member
Mhm.
told me of someone who told them about it.
Okay.
So it was kind of through word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Okay.
And I went to them and I applied. They have a shelter,
Yeah.
but I was able to stay with a family for a little bit until I could get into the transitional housing.
Good.
So what that goal was to get a job, because for the transitional housing you need to have a job and
You
a
need to
and
have. Hmm.
right, a job. And so I was able to get that job, get that apartment, and they have income based housing.
Hmm.
And so what I was able to do was afford to have a safe place for me and my children, independent of other people. And I was able to partake in counseling myself and my children. We got therapy.
Hmm.
And this transitional housing allowed us to be there, and they serviced us for 2 wonderful years.
Wow.
And so during those 2 years, um, I started going to college.
Wow.
And
And what prompted you to want to go back to school while you were in
well,
transitional housing?
I didn't have any goals. I
Yeah.
was sort of a housewife, a mom.
Yeah.
I didn't have a career path in mind. I didn't have anything in mind to do with myself, and I didn't want to just go to work.
Hmm.
I wanted to provide and kind of even make it like a great job for me, something that I wanted to do.
A
And
career.
I thought the first thing that I should do is, work on my education a little bit to
Yeah.
make it to where I'm qualified.
Yes. Okay.
And so even at first, if you don't know what you're interested in when you first get into college, you're taking those basic courses that you need for any major.
Yeah.
So, um, again, a small goal, just get
Mhm.
started.
Just get started. Yep.
Right. So I got started, and I was actually doing accounting at the time, and I just put my foot to the floor and went running, right? Because looking for jobs is not always easy. It's
It's
so
not.
easy
No.
to get discouraged looking
Hmm.
for a job because, as you and I spoke about before, you may get 99 no's before you get that one yes.
Yes, that's that sales mentality. Okay.
Yeah, it's true. And it's the same thing with the job. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people looking for a job, but you cannot get discouraged because the job that's for you will be the one that's the yes.
Hmm.
And so then I was working in school, therapy. I had a lot on my plate, right?
Hmm.
But it's feeling good because look, I'm doing these things.
Yep.
And
On your own, independent of your abuser, not having to worry about when he's going to flip. Peace of mind is coming, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the next thing that I did was I bought a car. That felt really great.
I know that's right.
With my own credit,
Yes.
I got my own car.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when it was time for me to transition to my own apartment, I found
Yep.
another place outside of the transitional housing. And then that was a big step because you're on your own, and you have got to kind of take the reins from there. But I had good foundation. And
Yep.
um, one of the things that was really important to me on my journey was, at work, in building my career, and even while I was in school, was trying to move up.
Hmm.
Um,
Not stay where you were on the entry
right.
level
I
portion.
didn't
Okay.
want to be stagnant. And so one of the really important things that I did was offer to help a lot. And you end up learning when your supervisors see that you want to learn, you're a go-getter, you anything that they ask you to do, your attitude is great about it, you're excited to
Hmm.
learn, get more
Hmm.
experience. These are
Hmm.
all things that will help you to grow within a
Hmm.
company.
Yeah.
And everything that I learned new added value to me
Yeah.
in
Absolutely.
work and in life.
Yeah.
And so with that said, I became a project management professional.
Awesome.
So if anybody knows, that is a very difficult test to pass.
Yes, ma'am.
Very difficult. And it's very hard to raise children and be in school, but there are schools that will allow you to break things down. I always recommend Western Governors University, and
Yeah.
for a few reasons. Number one is the tuition is affordable. So as a single mom with the government grants, majority of your tuition will be covered.
Hmm.
You will probably have to pay less than $1,000. Number
Out
two,
of pocket.
out of pocket, right?
Yeah.
Number two reason why I recommend that school is because instead of them giving you four classes and all at the same time you're juggling all these four classes, you actually take one class at a time for a shorter time span. So for
Okay.
me, that allowed me to focus better. I have work, I have children. I can do this,
Flexibility.
right. I can do this one course and then move to the next one. And
Yep.
another reason why I recommend that school is because they let you finish as many courses as you can within their semester. So
Okay.
if your workload is too big, you can only handle four, do your four. But hey, if you want to really push hard, be a go getter, you can do eight. It's up to you.
Amazing. I love it. It's going at your pace, but letting you push further if you push past what your pace was.
Right,
Yeah. And
right.
so can you give the name of the school again? Is it Western Governors University?
Western Governors University.
Perfect.
Yes.
Put that in the chat so folks can see the name that Erin is referring to. And I just want to touch on some of the comments here, largely from Renee, who is a huge supporter of Love Life Now. She says, Erin, thank you for your courage, keeping you and your children in prayer. She says, praise God. I think in reference to when you were able to get your car. Um, Mark says, thank you for your testimony, Erin. And Renee says, well, she admires me. Oh, you're too sweet. It's not about me tonight. It's about Erin. So thank you, Renee. We appreciate you and sending you big, big hugs. I did put the name of the university in the chat because I just think that is so, again, when people think about what the next side looks like, it's so very daunting. And where you had babies to consider when you left, right? It wasn't just you, it was you and your babies. And one of the major reasons why you left was because of your babies, right?
Yes.
Um, and so you got to a breaking point where you were like, oh my God, my kids are seeing this and this is going to become learned behavior if I don't do something. And not only did you get yourself therapy, but you got therapy for you and them, which is so hugely important. Oftentimes, kids are the forgotten victims in these situations, and they do not get the help that they need to unlearn the behaviors that they picked up in the home where abuse was present. So I commend you wholeheartedly for being open to that and allowing that for them. And so now I want to talk about, and so big deal that you were able to not just complete the courses that you wanted, but you were able to push past that and do even more during the time that you went to Western Governors University. So I want to talk about once you were done with school, what that looked like. And so is it an online curriculum or was it in
Yes.
person? Okay, perfect. What did that look like for you in terms of your career? Where did that put you in terms of your career journey?
Well, that's the interesting thing. I majored in accounting, and as you know, I'm a finance professional.
Yep.
So I actually ended up finding a job at a really, really great finance company, and I was doing accounting for them. And through doing that, I started to learn about um, the finance world,
Yep.
and I realized that I really liked it.
Yeah, I love that.
So my path wasn't necessarily the one that I initially started on,
Yeah,
but where I was going led me to where I needed to be.
absolutely.
And so as soon as I realized that I liked that, I just went as far as I could go to be of assistance and learn everything. Luckily, I had a supervisor who was willing to take me under her wing and teach me. And
Yeah.
all of these things were really, really beneficial to me. And a family oriented company. You're seeing a lot more of that these days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, with that said, I decided that I wanted to become a certified leasing and finance professional. And so,
Guys, you gotta recognize that she's got the CLFP at the end of her name now. So I love that.
yes, yes. So I started to study, and I believe you're a CLFP too, right?
I am, and I was
So
gonna bring that up that we both are in this industry.
yeah, so for me, I was still on a beginner level, but trying to do this, and so what that meant was a lot of self teaching,
Absolutely, yeah.
but the determination.
Was there?
Anything, yeah, anything that you want to do, if you're determined, it fuels you. It
Yes.
fuels you. And I just wanted to continue to be better and better. And so I was able to earn my designation as a CLFP.
Yeah.
And I really grew. I got into management at the company I was at. And then, yeah. And then, along the way, just my kids have grown up and they are
Mhm.
showing very good signs of being responsible
Yes.
adults soon. I
Love
have
it.
a son that's in college right now. He's 20. He has a
Wow.
4.0.
Wow.
And it feels very good for me to go from not having any goals or knowing what I wanted to do
Yeah.
and take it to
The
having
next.
accomplished all of these things, being a good example for my children,
Yes.
being able to send my son to college and say, "Hey, don't worry about working.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
focus on starting your life, your journey."
Yeah. So that this has all come very full circle for you. When we talk about, again, tonight is about that reset button, that restart, what it looks like to restart your life after abuse. And it, as you can see, and if you've been listening to the for the entire time, you realize that this isn't a one step journey. There's a lot of pathways
Yeah.
that happen. And so, you and I talked a little bit before we went live, and I asked you if you had seen the Netflix series, and you said you hadn't, and I admittedly also have not seen it, but that's by choice. um the Maid, a lot of people have reached out to me and said, you should watch this, and because they're aware of the area of work that I do, and me being a survivor. And as many people know, The Maid is about a woman that leaves an abusive situation, and it shows the pitfalls of how the system has failed her, and and her situation. And you know I specifically have not watched it because, one, it will be triggering for me. But two, one of the things that I've heard that so when we talk about system failure, it's the courts that failed her, it's the job situation that failed her, and obviously that was not your situation, Erin. You had first of all, determination, to 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 get out, right? And not just
Yes.
to get out, but to do even better than what you thought you could do. And so, she ends up in the situation. I don't know the whole schematic, so I'm not going to quote the movie. And people, guys, don't chastise me if I'm saying the wrong thing about the movie. But from what I've heard is that one of the things that happens in the movie is that the abuser at some point gets to be a good supportive person, and that's not typically how this works. So there's a missed opportunity there with that. But then again, like I said, the pitfalls and what it shows, I'm sure it gives a good depiction of that, and what generally can happen to survivors when they decide to seek help. So that being said, I want you to talk about, Erin, you what were two pieces of systems that or two systems that you thought really helped you when you decided to make to restart, or to just leave.
Well, honestly, I'm going to say this. I have a very supportive family,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that not everybody has that. That's not
Support.
available to everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
that was available to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing. But obviously, the Montgomery County Women's Center was such a big, huge part of why I was able to do what I've been able to do, why
Mm-hmm.
I was able to give my children something better.
Yeah.
Be-
Wow.
because not everybody can start and transition into paying bills like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can have a situation where it's fitted towards your income, it's very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they also offer legal assistance there.
Mm-hmm.
So they help you get divorced from that abuser.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I would say those two were very, very beneficial in my journey, the family support and the Montgomery County Women's Center.
And I'm glad you're pointing that out, because again, that's often the biggest sort of stepping stone that you can get when you leave an abusive situation, is the support of a domestic violence agency that has those resources sort of ready and waiting to help you. And the family support, whether it be friends who are like family or blood family, it is so important to be supportive to survivors. And so oftentimes I say to folks, please, if even if you can get the nearest DV agency number and figure out, what will happen when your friend or your family member calls, so that you make it less daunting for them, do that. Because that's sometimes what they need, is a third party outside of what they're hearing from people that know and obviously love them, but they're not necessarily willing to hear all that right now from you, because they know you, and they feel like they might be judged by you, or they might be judged by them. Is getting that third party voice that can go in their ear and say, look, we're here not to judge you, we're here to help you, and this is what we can do. And you don't have to pay a thing. As it regards to shelter, you don't have to pay a dime for legal advocacy, as you mentioned. You don't have to pay a dime for counseling for your kids. Come, we want to help. And so that's really important, and I'm so happy that that was a system and that worked for you, and that your family was there for you, and they're the ones that sort of pass that number to you, because again,
Yes.
that's oftentimes what we urge people to do. So now I want to talk about where you are now, and in retrospect, what are some of the things that you wish you could have told your younger self that was in that situation at the time, about the pitfalls of getting into a relationship like that? What were some of the red flags that you may have missed? What are some of the things that you now look back and say, I can't even believe that was me?
Okay. So where I am now is I'm a very outspoken, independent person.
Yeah.
I am a go-getter,
Yeah.
and I'm just simply determined to be successful at whatever I put my mind to.
Amen.
And what I would go back and say to my younger self is, first of all, you need to know someone a lot longer than 6 months before you get married to them.
Yeah.
And secondly, what I would say to my younger self, honestly, don't be so lazy.
Mm.
I was a lazy young woman.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it suited me, and this is a red flag on my own part. It suited
Mm-hmm.
me to be with someone just because they were going to take care of things
Mm.
financially.
Yeah.
And so another thing is that, notice I mentioned how independent that I am now. That younger me was looking for leadership. And sometimes that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, you
Mm-hmm.
can't put everything of yourself into following someone else.
Right.
So I was afraid to be my own person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was afraid to have my own opinion. And I would say to my younger self that it's okay to not agree
Right.
with people. And I don't need this safety net of this person that is not so nice to me just because they're strong and I can just follow them and they take care of the money and
Mm-hmm.
they can speak for me. I don't
Yeah.
need that. I can speak for myself.
Right.
I
Yeah.
have a voice, and I would say to that young Erin, I would say, stand up and take part in your fate, in
Yeah.
your own journey. Don't
Yep.
just sit back and let things happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
um participate
Mm-hmm.
in what your fate is. Be a
Yeah.
participant.
Yeah. And what's happening around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's often hard. So you were in, how old were you then?
I was about 21.
Okay. Okay. So that's a really impressionable time, right? I can speak to that. I was 21 years old when I got into my abusive relationship. And, during that time, we're very impressionable. We still see things from a rose lens. We believe the best in people.
Mm-hmm.
We ourselves do not, like you said, not don't necessarily know what we want. And if there's someone there that says, I got you, you're like, okay,
And I was,
you
yeah.
know, yeah. So I hear and I feel all of that what you're saying, and um, it's really hard to sort of find yourself or even center yourself in a relationship when you get into one that's heavy and serious like that. And it's, for you it wasn't just a relationship, this was a marriage that you got into, right?
Yes.
6 months after beginning to know this person, and they obviously fed on that. They fed on the fact that you were not necessarily ready to participate in your own faith, and built upon that. They continue to take liberties, and abusers are so good at that. They're so good at, taking liberties and crossing boundaries and asserting power and control and manipulation and all of these things that after a while you look back and you're like, wait a minute, it's now 3 or 4 months into the marriage and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell did I do here? How did I end up here? And it's like almost over your head, the ways that they're continuously taking those liberties. So, in retrospect, what are some of the things that your abuser did? Because I do like to center abusers in this conversation. It's, we can continue to say stop harming us, but men are 90% of the time the perpetrators around this issue, and we need to center the focus where it belongs. Not just men, because men and women do get abused, but I'm saying center the focus around the abuser. Where do you had Was he ever held responsible legally for what he did to you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did you ever decide to pursue legal action against him?
I did not.
Okay.
I kind of I kind of tiptoed away. I felt like I didn't want to
And
poke the beast.
yeah, and that's completely okay too, right? You centered your safety, and that and your children's safety, and that was most important. Um, but perpetrators, not just, we as survivors, we tend to, like you said, we don't want to poke the beast. We don't want to rattle their cage because we don't know what they're capable of, right? Because at the center of all of this is fear, right? When we're
Yes.
escaping, when we're in it. And then sometimes, even if they're held, they are arrested, or restraining order, it's like the system sort of sometimes gives them these little slaps on the wrist, right? And then they're free to go about their business, maybe take an anger management class, and then they're free to go about their business and perpetrate again, and or do it to someone else. And this is where where the cycle begins to repeat itself, because these things are not centered on rehabilitation and accountability. Um, so I just want to commend you for everything that you did during that time.
Thank you.
Um, I am so incredibly excited for all the things that you have done and that you are continuing to do to make sure that you and your babies are in a position where this will never be the case. And so part of what you did that we talked about that got you to this point was therapy. Can you talk about what that looked like for you in the beginning and what it looks like for you now? Oops, Erin, you're frozen. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Erin?
I'm
Oops,
sorry.
there
I'm
you are.
sorry. What did
Yeah,
you say?
you froze. So I was asking, what does it look like? What did part of what got you to this point was therapy we talked about
Yes.
before this. And so can you talk about what it looked like for you then and what it looks like for you now?
Um, Therapy was a scary thing at first. That's very scary. And I think that a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to do therapy. I don't want to talk to a stranger about my problems." And I think a lot also in the Black community, we tend to think that we don't need therapy or we don't want to do that.
Hmm.
Um, for me, it was really a scary thing to realize a lot of things about myself, but I also realized that I needed to understand. And I grew so much
Hmm.
because, as I
Who
mentioned
who did you who
before,
did you get therapy through in the beginning?
Montgomery County Women's Center.
The DV agency. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. As I mentioned before, it was very important to me to not leave one bad situation for another.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to make a really good foundation for myself. Right now, for me, what it looks like is I still do therapy from time to time as I need it.
Yeah.
Um, because we all have things in life, we may not know how to approach it, and sometimes it's very helpful. And for me right now, what it looks like is I have a very good self-awareness.
Good.
And what it also looks like is kindness to other people.
Yeah.
Um, I'm able to use really good communication skills. And that's been very, very beneficial to me, even just raising my children.
Yeah.
And I've learned how to forgive, how to forgive myself, even, you know,
Hmm.
and how to give people grace.
Yeah.
Give people grace and just continue the growth. And I've accepted that therapy is not something to be afraid of. When you hear things that are scary, you don't just take off running, right?
Right.
You have to
Right.
work through these things. You can't
Yes.
run away from them. And so I am a huge advocate for therapy,
Yeah.
huge, especially for little children who have seen things that they shouldn't have seen.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so some children have lasting effects from things like that. And you know, a lot of times children won't say anything, but they saw it, they heard it, and
Mhm.
it needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. Again, child witnesses to this issue are often the forgotten victims, and it is highly important that you do not discount their lived experiences with you.
Right.
Oftentimes I will sometimes hear folks say, well, he never hit me in front of the kids, or, he's never hit me at all. It's just really the emotional abuse and the verbal. And so, I think they'll be okay. And that is certainly not the case. Children feed off of your emotions and your behaviors. And so, you may go into a room one way, you come out another way, and in that room, you and daddy were there. And when you left to go into that room, you were one way, good, and when you came out, you looked bad. Whether it is your head is sunken down, or your whole mannerism has changed to be sunken and solly. Children pick up on these things, and what do? Like you said, Erin, they do not necessarily come out and talk about it. All they need to figure out is how they can make it better for you, right? Especially if you're a good mommy, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to see mommy sad, and maybe I'm the cause of it. All they have to go on is their imagination, right? What happened in that room with mommy and daddy, that daddy is the monster because he made mommy feel bad, right? So when you talk about how this issue affects kids, and what it can look like in coming years, or even at the moment, it can be temper tantrums, randomly. It can be refusing to eat. It can be wetting their bed, no matter really what age they are. It
Yeah.
could be disease. It could be asthma. I specifically had suffered from asthma, being a child witness at, growing up. It could be lack of focus. I mean, all of these stressors that they experience through you comes out in one way or the other, and it may not even show up until their young adult life, when they then now are in middle school and are dating, high school and are dating. Oftentimes teens will admit to me, after I've done a workshop, that they are going through it, and they didn't know that it was domestic violence. Their mom is going through it and they don't know how to help. A friend is going through it and they don't know what to say to them. So I love to always include that piece, because, again, children can be the forgotten victims. But I commend you, Erin, for going the route that you did, getting your children therapy, and sort of keeping tabs on what that, how this could have affected them in the long run, and keeping tabs on that. I commend you big time. So now that we have about maybe 7 more minutes, I'd love to talk for you to talk about what advice you can give to someone that is in this type of relationship currently, and wanting to figure out what next steps they can take to get out, and what sort of good mantra can you give to folks about what the other side is and can look like for them when they decide to thrive.
Okay. So some advice that I would give to somebody in an abusive relationship would be, first of all, to figure out what resources you can tap into,
Mhm.
because um you don't have to do it on your own.
Mhm.
Whether it's emotional support or financial support, there are um organizations out here that will help you, or just even give you information.
Mhm.
And the other advice that I would give would be, don't count yourself out. Like, don't ever count yourself out. You
Yeah.
can do what you need to do. You don't need another person by your side, as in a relationship, in order to do that. Don't feel incomplete because you aren't in a relationship.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Good
can
one.
piggyback off of that and to say what it looks like now is my success, and again, everything isn't always a win,
Right.
but my success is mine.
Yes.
And it makes me happy because I have done more than I ever thought that I could do.
Yeah.
And reasonable goal setting is very, very good because once you accomplish this goal, it pumps you up, man. You know, you
Yeah.
feel good. And then you
Yeah.
set yourself another goal and you're stepping up. And I always say this to my children, and I would say this to anybody else: make your next move your best move.
Yes.
Don't keep making these lateral moves where you're not doing anything better than what you were doing before. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, when we talk about these things, it sounds like that, but we're talking about, for me, a span of like 15 years.
Yes.
And
Yes. Very
so,
important.
yeah. So I'm not saying that it's easy, and I don't want it to come off like it's easy. You've got to be a fighter.
Right.
You have got to fight for what's best for you, for what's best for your kids, what's best
Mm-hmm.
for your family. And you have got to keep your determination, because when you get those 99 no's, or when you stumble, you've got to get back up. You have got to keep going. Don't think that you can't do it on your own just because it's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
No one said it was going to be easy. But
Yeah.
that's the thing about you. You are a fighter. So you can do it. And when you do it, you will feel amazing, because who's going to stop you now? Look at
Nobody.
right, right. I think that anyone is capable. And I think that one thing that is so important is for people to have good influences around them. So
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with really good people that
Yeah.
inspire you
Mm-hmm.
and encourage your growth.
Mm-hmm.
I had some women around me that just their circumstance was different from mine. They
Yeah.
had a lot of struggle. And
Yeah.
it's a couple women in my life I saw raising kids on their own and going to school full time. And you know what
Mm-hmm.
I thought? I looked at them and I said, if they can do that, I can do that. There's no reason why I can't. There's a lot of
Excellent.
sleepless nights, but it was a lot of A's on tests, and
Yes.
it just reinforces you.
Yes.
It fills up your tank. And it's not always that hard, but you're going to go through a period or two or three where it is difficult, but don't let that hold you back.
No. No. Gosh, I love it all. All good sauce, all good stuff that I know folks resonate with. Renee says, keep persevering because that's what it takes, perseverance, right? To just keep pressing.
Absolutely.
And, it does take that sales mentality, right? You bang on 100 doors, no pun intended, and you're just striving. You don't care that that person said no. You don't care how they said no. It's just bringing you closer to your next yes, or the first yes. And once you get that first yes, you're like, oh gosh, thank you, right? And like you said, it pumps you up, and you're ready and raring to go on to the next one and the next one. And so, small attainable goals is a big takeaway tonight, from Erin, and what she suggests in terms of leaving, and what that potentially looks like for the other side. It's that it's not overnight. These things do take time. For her, it was a period of 15 years, but look at her now. um, I met Erin through a colleague of mine in the industry, the banking and finance industry, and I am so incredibly grateful. I'm going to shout her out, Reed Rakovich, um, to her. And, now hearing Erin's story, it just reiterates that thriving after abuse can happen.
Yes.
It, like the M&M commercial, it does exist. Okay. and and we can put on our fancy red lip and our swanky hat and come on and
Yes.
show folks that it's not, you don't have to just survive. You can't push past just surviving and really thrive. So I'm so grateful to you, Erin, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I do want to share with folks that this is the first time you are sharing your story publicly.
Yes.
Yes, and so I'm so honored that you allowed us to be a part of that and the Love Life Now audience. This live is going to stay pinned at the top of our page until we decide to go live next. So please share the video and keep commenting, and having it be an awareness focal point for someone that needs that, that boost, right? To hear that boosting message from Erin, who obviously, again, is thriving at this point in her life. So I want to thank you guys for being a part of the live tonight, and for Erin for joining us again from Houston, Texas. Um, Renee, thank you. Renee says, thank you for allowing us to hear your story. All the
Abs-
Purple Hearts, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. You can be a part of the solution. Please, please, please be a non judgmental ear to anyone that may come into your circle and may be experiencing this issue. The statewide domestic violence hotline here in Massachusetts is 877-785-2020. It is in the link in the comments. It is SafeLink, and it's run by Casa Myrna, Domestic Violence Agency in Boston. So I want to thank you guys again for being with us. We are past our 45-minute mark, but I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait till we decide to pop up live again. So good night, everyone.
Thank you.